Everyone, welcome back to Apex Hours. This is Amit, and we are in day 8 of our Flow Builder series. In this video, we are going to talk about what is Invocable Apex, basically how we can call the Apex class methods from our Flow Builder. There will be various scenarios where you will be able to see how you have to you have to call the Apex classes from the Flow Builder, and then you need to work on the logic inside that Apex class. Then we will also talk about how we can pass the multiple parameters from flow to your Apex class method. And then what could be the return type and how you are going to work on that return type in the invocable method. So before we go ahead, let's quickly talk about what invocable method is. Invocable method is a method which is annotated with @invocable inside our Apex class, which must be static and then either public or global, and it must be in an outer class. That means if you have a class and then you have another class inside that class, you cannot have invocable method inside the inner class. And then there could be only one method which is annotated as invocable method inside any class. There cannot be multiple methods. Our triggers cannot reference our invocable method, and invocable method will not accept more than one argument, because this is very important note which we need to keep in mind is invocable method will never accept more than one argument. Now here, if you wanted to have, say that you wanted to pass the multiple parameters, how you can pass those? If you wanted to pass the multiple arguments, how you can do that? There is a trick for that. We are also going to see that. Then we will the other point is like other annotations can't be used with @invocable method. So other annotations, there are multiple like future and kind of those annotations that you will not be able to use with the invocable method. So this is just a very basic and brief overview about invocable method with all the important points that you need to have and that you need to keep in mind while working with invocable method. Now this is the scenario where we are going to talk about. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a pick list on the account with the value of active, inactive, and hold. Then we will check if the status of an account is changed to either inactive or hold. We are going to delete all the closed one opportunity related to that account. So this is the task number 1 that we are going to do with the flow. And you can definitely do with this task with the flow only. That is one thing that you can do, but here the agenda and the purpose is to show you how to call the Apex class method and how to do this inside an Apex class. So we are going to do this, and then there is one more task where we are going to talk about if a case is created where origin is email, contact is not null, then we are going to send an email to the related contact and also save the email as activity. This is also we are going to do with the help of an Apex class. So the number 1 is deleting the opportunity. Number 2 is sending the email to our related contact of our case record if origin is email. So now without making any further delay, let's quickly start and to see how we can do all these 2 tasks. So as we discussed, for creating a pick list field on the account record, we just need to go to the navigate to account record. I believe everyone know how to create that field. So we have got a field called status, and that status field have all these 3 values that we have discussed: inactive, active, and hold. Next thing that we need to have is we need to have an Apex class which have invocable method. So for that, I have an example Apex class which says Apex hours flow series. This is an example Apex class. This is a method which says that invocable method. This is our annotation that we are going to use. This annotation have one required parameter, which is label. You need to provide label. It says that get account name. Okay, what we need to do is we need to say that delete related opportunities. Because what we are going to do is we are going to delete the related opportunities related to that account. Okay, and then if you want to have, you can also say that delete related opportunities for the given record IDs, because we are going to pass the record ID from our flow builder. Then category is account because this is related to an account. So we said that category is account. Again, these two things are optional things. If you wanted to have, you can have. Otherwise, these are not the mandate things. You can leave it as it is. But for the best practice, it is always to have a label, description, and the category so that you, whenever the other admin or the developer is looking into it, they are able to identify what exactly this method is for. Now here, the method we are going to say that delete opportunity. We have deleted the opportunity. This method name is delete opportunities. Now we have talked about like we need to delete the opportunity related to a particular account. Okay. So what we will do is we'll pass a parameter over here. We'll say that list. This argument will always be a type of list, and it will always be either a primitive, that means string, integer, or your class. It can be S object or list of S object. So you have to pass with the help of a list parameter. So even if you are passing one record ID, it is going to give you the list of size 1 where you can get that. So for example, say that you have got you are passing one parameter. So how you are going to list is going to look like this, where they have some account ID like this. And if you wanted to get a single record ID, so you say that ID and whatever the variable you wanted to have, for example, account ID. And then here you can say that IDs dot get, and here you will see 0. So this is going to give you the actual record ID which is there inside your variable. So that's why we have used list of string IDs. And then what we did is now we have to query on the opportunity record. So we'll say that okay, list of opportunity, and I'll say opportunity list, and we only need select ID, and we say that from our object name which is opportunity, and then we need to put the filter where we say that where account ID equal to, and we have got IDs. Okay, there is one more filter. We say that it should delete all the closed one opportunity. So we'll say that and stage name equal to closed one. This is what our condition says. And then what we need to do is just go ahead and delete this opportunity. Okay. Now, if you don't want to return anything, we don't want anything returned. So what we can do is we can just go ahead and say that void. So we are not returning anything for this particular method. If there is any error, you will get under this problem section. So this is the very easy thing that we have done just for deleting. There could be a very complex scenario where you are passing multiple parameters, you are kind of performing multiple operations over there, some complex logic. You can have that, but this is just a way to show how you can call the method from a flow builder series, from a flow. So now if you go here into the flow builder, as because we need to create a flow, and as we have talked about, every time a flow status is changes, account status is changing, we need to call the flow. So we'll just go ahead and click on record trigger flow next, and then here we need to select here. This time we'll select a record is updated because that is what we have. After the record is saved, that's true, because once the record is saved, then only we wanted to delete the records. Click on done. We need to choose the object. For choosing the object, we'll select account. Now we have to see here, right? We have to put the filters. So we'll say that, okay, we have got a status field. If status equal to either inactive or status equal to hold. So we'll say that status is equals to hold. Now, if you see here, the condition between these two fields is and. So what we'll do is from the drop down, we'll select any condition is met. That means either status is inactive or status is hold. Go ahead and click on done. Next thing what you need to do is you need to call the Apex class method. So to do that, what you need to do is just click on that plus icon, select action, because action is something which is going to reference your Apex classes, Apex class method. So if you see here, if you search in the right side, if you have some sort of Apex, you can select that. Otherwise, you can directly search for your method name. So what you will search here, Whatever the label that you have given, this is what you need to search. You search, okay, delete related opportunities. You can see it is saying that it is Apex class and this is your class, which is say that Apex hours flow series. Select that, then it will ask the label. You can see here now it is saying that set input values. The name of that variable is IDs. We will say include. Now it is asking what input you wanted to pass to Apex class. So as we know that whenever a record trigger flow is working, we are saying that record, then we are saying that whatever the ID is. So we wanted to pass record.id and done. So here, if you have seen, what we did is basically we have called an Apex class, we checked the condition, right? But we never checked if the status has been changed. Okay, here what could be the problem? The condition we are checking, if status is inactive or hold, this flow is going to run. Okay, now think of a scenario. We are going to an account record, we are modifying some other fields instead of a status, right? Suppose that I'm modifying the rating or anything else, and if status matches, the flow will call and that will delete the opportunities. It should not happen. That's why what we have to do is we have to put some condition over here. So put the condition, you just need to click on plus sign and click on decision, and we will say that check if the account is inactive or hold. Okay, then we will say here, okay, account is inactive or hold, and any condition, because we have two conditions. Okay, so what we will say here is, or say, okay, let's make it as and for the first time. We'll say record dot status equals to, we'll say inactive, and we'll say that record dot status equals to hold. Now any of these should match, and then there should be one more condition which says that record dot status not equals to record prior, that we have talked about, right? So this particular line is going to give us the result which say that if the status has been changed. Now what we need is any of these two must match and this must match. So for this, what we will do is we'll say that custom logic is met. Just select that, and what we will say is one or two. Okay, so to instead of and, here we will say that one or, and then we'll say that and three. Now what it is here saying, either one or two and three. If any of this, like any of these and this matches, then call this. Okay, you just click on done. Now you see here you have got account is inactive or hold. What you can do is you can just say this is what we are going to basically delete. So we'll call here, we'll say that account is inactive. So we'll just go ahead, click on action, and we call about like we call the same method, which is delete related opportunities. We'll pass the id record.id, and for default path we'll say that it is just going to end the flow. Okay, for the default path it is going to end if there is default outcome. We are not doing anything. Now here, as a best practice, as always, we'll add a fault path, and if this doesn't delete, so what we will do is we'll just go ahead and post to chatter, say that account has been made inactive, but there was some errors while deleting the opportunities. So we'll say that post to chatter, and message we say that account has been made so we say that account has been made inactive or hold, but the opportunity, but delete, there was an error while deleting the opportunities. Target is going to be our record.id, and done. You can have a fault path over here as well, and then again you can try to say that retry chatter post. Okay, so if you want, right, it's just a simple thing that I'm saying as a best practice to always retry, so that if for the first, suppose that for the first post there was some error, right? For the first post something went wrong, but in the second go it went successfully. So it's always better, whenever the flow is simple, it's always better to give it a retry. And if the flow is itself complex, then you can just leave as it is, because that might cause the performance of your flow. Now if something happens, you have end of your flows. So this is the simple flow that is for opportunities. Just go ahead and save it and say that delete related opportunities and save it. As usual, before kind of sending this, like activating this, you can debug it. You need to select the account, say that whatever the account you have, you are going to skip the condition, just to run it. So you can see here this particular decision, in this decision, this particular portion has ran, which is default outcome, because this is highlighted. Okay, so the reason is that our account which you have selected isn't meeting any criteria, because in this criteria we have mentioned the record prior and the prior and the record thing. So we will just go ahead and activate the flow in order to test it. Now we have got our flow which is ready. We'll get back to account. First thing, we need to see if there is any closed opportunities. So there are a few of the opportunities. Two of them is basically are closed one. Okay, sorry, two of them are closed one. Now what we'll do is we'll just go ahead, click on details, and then we'll just find out where the status is. We'll change the status to inactive and we'll see what happens. Are we getting any error, or are we getting the success? So okay, status is where is it is inactive, and if you go to the related again, you can see now two opportunities had been deleted. That means our flow is working fine. So the number one task that we have talked about in the starting of this video has been completed. Now the second task that we have is, if a case is created where origin is email and contact is not null, then send the email to the related contact. This is again we need to do with the help of a flow and an invocable apex. Okay, so what we have to do is just go ahead and create one more apex class which will have the invocable apex. So we are just going to have copy the method. So we'll say that okay, and we'll say that apex hours flow series, and I'll say case. I'm just putting some random name so that I can remember it. Now what we will do is we'll say that send email to contact. Okay, you have a standard send email method that we have already talked about. You can also have that. That is very easy for you to send, but again the purpose is to use apex method. Okay, so we have got the label, we have got the description, we have got the category which is correct. Now instead of, we'll say that send email to contact, whatever the method you wanted to like give the signature of that method is. Now to send the email, there is something related to, so we say that which is related to single email message. So I have just used a method over here, send email. This is just a skeleton. So I'm going to pass the values over here. Okay, so you can see here just a single email skeleton that we have, and to address can be either your lead ID or contact ID, or it can be your user ID. If you don't have any of these, you can send or you can specify the email address in the form of a list. Okay, so here we will be getting the ID. Basically we'll be getting the contact ID. So we'll say okay, whatever the contact ID that we have, we are going to use that as a to address. So we'll just comment out this and we'll use contact IDs over here. Now we have got the contact IDs. So subject, we are going to say that your case has been received. This is one thing we have. If you wanted to have the case number, so you can have the case number. We'll talk about that, how you can have the multiple parameters. And then plain text body, you can just say, this is a case number, that's it. And then this is one thing, if you have seen the requirement which says that save that email as activity. So this is the method which says that set save as activity as a true. That means if you don't use this method, then your email will not be saved as email message. Okay, then we have used the basically messaging namespace send email method, and we say that messages, whatever the message we have prepared over here on line number 10, and we have used either success or error. Okay, so that's what you have to use over here inside your method. So this is just a simple code. You can also get that code from the Google, or we can also provide you the code if you need. Okay, now one thing that we have talked about here is like giving the case number, right? So what we will do is, in order to have the case number, you must need to have the multiple parameters. So for that, what you will do is you will create one more class. So this is going to be our class. You'll create one more wrapper class. Basically, we have named that request. Okay, now here you can have multiple parameters or multiple variables annotated with @invocable variable. If you put a simple variable over here, you'll not be able to see that variable into your Apex flow. But if you put like that, say that this is going to be the record ID. So you'll say that list of string, which is going to be case IDs. Okay. And then we will say that it is going to be the case number. So we'll say that case number. Okay. And description is going to be the case number. So here the ID of the case records we can say here, and then required if you wanted to make this required or not. So I have made both the variables as required. Now what you will do is you have this request. Okay, you have to use a list of requests, and you will say that request list. Okay, now you need to get this case IDs you need, and there is one thing we also need is contact IDs. So we'll say that contact ID. So we'll say that contact record ID, the ID of the contact record. Now we need this contact IDs. Okay, there is some error. We'll talk about that. Variable does not exist IDs. Yeah, we need this contact IDs. We need this case number. So to do that, what we'll do is just go ahead, copy this. We have to use, say that, okay, list of contact IDs equal to request list dot get. First, we have to get the number one. We have talked about this list always contains only one parameter, one element. And then we will say that this is the name of our variable contact IDs. Then we'll talk about case number. How you will get this? Again, use the same thing and then name it as case number. Now for contact IDs, you will use contact IDs, which are going to be your to address. And for case number, you will use case number. So that is how you can pass the multiple parameters, and you can access your multiple parameters over here. Now what we have to do is we have to go to the flows and create a flow and with the condition. It is going to be your record trigger flow. Click on next, auto layout, and this time it is going to be a record is created after the record is saved, because we wanted to have that case number, and the case number will only generated once the record is saved. The object we are going to select is case, and we'll add two parameters, which is contact ID is not equals to null. Okay, and then origin is going to be equals to email, because that's what our condition says. We click on done, and then what we need to do is, as our conditions are already meeting, we don't need to have any condition over here now, because this is only going to run when the case is created. We will just immediately call the action, and we will say that send email. So as soon as we'll say send email, you will get your action over here, send email to contact. And you can just have here, you can see here now these are the required parameters. That's why we are able to see these parameters as a form of, in the form of required inputs. So for case number, what we'll say that record dot case number. For contact record ID, we'll say that record dot contact ID dot ID. Okay, it is basically going to be record dot contact ID. We'll see what exactly is happening there. And then we will see record ID. So we'll say that record dot ID. Okay, it says that the data type of resource you enter isn't compatible. Okay, the reason it is saying this because if you go to your Apex class and if you see here, it is saying that a string, we need to make it to the ID. And once you save it, once your class is saved, we have to get back to our flow in order to get the updated values and then pass those variables. So now if you get back to your flow, you can have that send email to contact, and we'll say record dot contact ID. We are still getting the same error because we have to save this flow. So we'll say that send email to contact, save it. And now refresh this because we have updated the code and we need the updated code over here in the flow. So we have to refresh the flow so that we can get that updated information here in our flow. Once you have that, you just need to follow the same process of finding the action. First thing, let's talk about case number. So we'll say it is going to be case record.case number, and then we'll talk about record.contact ID. Okay, it is again say the data type that you have entered isn't compatible. Yeah, got it. Oh, got it. Basically, this should be the single record IDs, not the list. So we'll here get back to our RFS class, and instead of ID, we'll say that okay, it is going to be a type of string case ID. Why we have to do this? Because this time we are not passing the actual, we say that the list of record IDs. This will only be the list of record IDs. Okay, and then it is going to be your contact is going to be list of contact. Okay, so it is going to be contact IDs, sorry, contact ID. And here what we will do is we will use this new list of a string and we'll pass our ID. You could have passed the class contact email as well, that will also work. And again this time we will try without refreshing and we'll see if that actually works. It might work, so we'll try with the contact record ID itself. We'll say that contact ID and then we'll say that ID. Okay, it's not basically working. Just go ahead and refresh this. So this time we are able to pass these variables, case number, contact ID, and record ID. We'll go ahead and click on done. If you have some sort of fault path, you can have that like retry or something else, or you have something else, say that you are going to end or something. Whatever you want to have as a fault path, you can have, and we are going to save it. Now we have saved this. What we will do is we'll just go ahead and activate this flow because again, this is going to be record triggered flow. And to test this, what we'll do is we'll go to the case over here. You can see we have got the case. We click on new. We need to make sure that there are few things which are right, say that which are basically matching, like origin must be email, there must be a contact. Okay, so we'll select, okay, this is going to be, we'll select one contact which is basically related or which have a valid email so that we can send it. So let's quickly find out the contact first which is having a valid email. Or what I will do is basically I'll just go ahead and edit this contact to have a valid email. So I've got this valid email over here for this contact, and we'll say, okay, we've got this Amy Taylor. Case origin is going to be email. Status can be anything. And you have got the subject or something, say that this is flow series test. Okay, test case. Whatever the description you have, not going to send the email from here. So we have this. Now what we'll do is just go ahead and click on save. So if there is any error while sending the email, we'll get that error. If not, we are here in the case record page. Okay, so we have got all these things, but there are few things which are missing over here from this case record page. Like we need to figure out if there is some sort of related list over here or not. So to do that, let's quickly add related list. I haven't added over here. For me, you might need to, you might already have that, so you will be able to see that. So just allow me a minute. I'll add that related list and then we'll talk about what actually we are looking for over here. So if you see here in my email, we have got your case has been received, and this is basically our case number which we have got. That means our email notification is working properly. So this was what I wanted to show you over here, how to basically send that email. And then you have got these few methods like set activity as a true, and there are many more methods related to sending the emails using Apex classes. So you can have those as well. You wanted to go through with those methods, you can have that. We also talked about how we pass the multiple parameters. This is one of the more, we say that, frequent business requirement where you need to pass the multiple parameters as well. So this is it for this particular video. Thank you for your time. And before you go ahead, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the channel. And we'll meet you into the next video of this series. Thank you.